thank you, Michigan Climate Action Network. Your organization's commitment to promoting clean energy, sustainability, and environmental justice in a way that really recognizes the connection between a healthy democracy and a healthy planet. It's just a constant inspiration. So, I want to start by thanking you guys, and thank you for your relentless advocacy for cleaner water and air in our land, and for spearheading the stewardship and preservation of our Great Lakes invaluable resources for our children and our children's children, to enjoy the way that we do. And personally, I'd like to thank you all for this incredible honor, and for acknowledging the hard work that my department has done on Nessel v. Enbridge Energy, which I think the caption, Nessel v. Enbridge, only second to when we had a lawsuit named Nessel v. DeVos, if I had to quantify what my favorite lawsuits were. But, obviously, I don't have to tell you guys what this lawsuit is about. You guys know, but, it's about protecting Michigan's Great Lakes from the now over 70-year-old ticking time bomb known as Line 5. So, as everyone knows, the twin pipelines cross at the Straits of Mackinac, the heart of Lake Michigan and Lake Huron. That it's an incredible danger to the Great Lakes, and the environmental and economic impact of a rupture, of course, would be just absolutely catastrophic. The danger is very real. It only gets worse and worse, right? It doesn't get better. Line 5, having already been struck by anchors twice in recent years that we know of, in 2018 and then again in 2020. And, not to mention, of course, Enbridge's 2010 Line 6B rupture in Michigan, one of the largest inland spills in American history. 882,000 gallons of oil spilled in a tributary of the Kalamazoo River, and took Enbridge over $1 billion to clean it up. So in keeping with this year's award theme, ending the era of fossil fuels, I'll just reemphasize what has always been my stance, and quite honestly, what was a really big inspiration for me in terms of running for this office in the first place. Michigan's energy needs can be met without Line 5. We know this. The economic impact of an orderly, court-ordered shutdown will be nothing compared to the economic, and not to mention environmental impact, if the pipeline ruptures and is shut down with no warning. Now, I filed this case back in May of 2019 in state court, based entirely on state law. And I remember back then saying, oh my God, we'll be lucky if this case is over by the time I hit menopause. And I don't say that anymore. Anyway, but it's, it was litigated there for a full year. And then Enbridge decided it wanted it out of state court and removed the case to federal court in 2022, way after the deadline for that had passed. And so now currently the battle focuses on bringing this state law case back to where it belongs, state court. And after what we feel as though was a faulty decision by the federal district court, fortunately, I was able to persuade the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit to hear an appeal of that decision. And briefing on that appeal is now complete, and we are awaiting a decision. In September of this year, I filed an amicus brief in support of similar lawsuit brought against Enbridge in Wisconsin federal court by the Bad River Band of the Lake Superior tribe of Chippewa Indians of the Bad River Reservation, which also similarly seeks the shutdown of Line 5. And in that brief, I established the state of Michigan has studied the potential impacts of a Line 5 shutdown for years, and any impacts associated with the shutdown of Line 5 are far outweighed by the grave risk of irreparable environmental and economic harm that's posed by its continued operation. And as Michigan's Attorney General, I will always fight to protect the Great Lakes from the threat of pollution caused by those who put their own profits above our priceless natural resources. And with that, let's talk about PFAS for just a second, right? That commitment extends to all our state's smaller bodies of water, as well as the Great Lakes. Michigan has been a leader in taking on the problems posed by toxic PFAS, or forever chemicals, which are not yet regulated by the federal government. And Michigan began studying PFAS many years ago and issued enforceable standards for PFAS in drinking water back in 2018. Well, I launched the PFAS litigation project upon taking office in 2019 to address the pollution that has impacted far too many Michiganders and our environment. And as part of the PFAS litigation project, I filed multiple lawsuits to bring relief to communities impacted by this form of contamination. So we currently have cases against over 20 PFAS manufacturers like 3M and DuPont to pay for the problems their products have caused in Michigan's environment. Now, these cases are pending in a multi-district litigation matter in federal court. And since that huge case now involves more than 10,000 separate cases, I am seeking to get our cases moved back to Michigan court. Why? Well, because just like line 5, these are Michigan cases that affect Michigan residents and belong in Michigan courts. And because we are making progress on PFAS cases here at home, my office settled our lawsuit against Wolverine Worldwide in Kent County in 2020. In that case, resulted in a judgment requiring Wolverine to pay $67 million to hook up over 1,000 residences to municipal water, plus ongoing cleanup at Wolverine's disposal sites and former tannery. Now, the work on the extension of municipal water is really, it's almost complete, and public meetings are being held for major work plan proposals because it's vitally important to keep the affected communities informed. And I also brought a lawsuit against Asahi Kasei Plastics of North America for a site in Livingston County that they used to own. That case also settled, and the settlement requires Asahi to investigate areas near its former facility in Brighton and take any actions needed to protect drinking water and natural resources in the area. All the work, all the oversights paid for by Asahi, and it requires state approval, and investigations are underway at and near the site. It's a pretty simple approach, right? You made that mess, you clean it up. The taxpayers of Michigan should not be having to fork over that money when, you know, they're the ones suffering and somebody else profited off of it. My department's Environmental Protection Division continues to handle a group of other PFAS cases in various stages of litigation and mediation that I'm really hopeful we'll be able to resolve with similar success on behalf of the state of Michigan. My environmental crimes unit, you know, our goal is to hold accountable, again, those who would do harm to our state's residents and resources for convenience or for financial gain. And that's why I decided, after many, many years of it having been gone defunct, we relaunched the department's environmental crimes unit. So my predecessors had limited themselves to taking civil action in environmental cases, but this is the way I look at it. If you were to put toxic chemicals in an individual's water glass, right? You know, somebody's sitting next to you, you put something into their glass and they drink it, you could be charged with a crime. But now what if you provided toxic chemicals, but you put it into the drinking water of 10,000 people or 10 million people? Why should you be treated differently than if you tried to poison one person, right? And so that's why I feel like we have to fully harness my department's criminal prosecuting authority in defense of our state's natural resources. And again, the over 10 million people that call Michigan home. These laws are on the books for a reason, but they need to be enforced. There needs to be consequences for criminal activity when it threatens the health and safety of our state's residents and our environmental resources. So just for instance, recently the unit brought charges against Donald Balcom for abandoning his twice-sunk barge in Grand Traverse Bay. Now, the pollution or trespass or treating the Grand Traverse Bay as a dumping ground for abandoned vessels, those are criminal offenses against the Great Lakes that are central to both our way of life in Michigan, as well as the livelihoods of so many of our residents. And just got that case bound over. Balcom's going to be appearing for a pretrial conference before the Leelanau County Circuit Court at the end of the month. We have so many other cases that we've brought. I mean, too many to recount here right now, but you know, we bring cases anytime we can where people violate our environmental rules and statutes. And that can be from insufficient septic systems leaking into waterways to oversized boat docks crowding out aquatic habitats. Construction that unlawfully fills wetlands without proper permits is also the target of some of these lawsuits, as are non-compliant CAFOs, at large agricultural operations that foul up our waterways. And in fact, just last week, my office, in cooperation with Eagle and EPA and the U.S. Department of Justice, we resolved a Clean Air Act violation against scrap metal recycler RJ Torching, who has locations in Flint, as well as Battle Creek. And their operations, for instance, have resulted in excess emissions of particulate matter, as well as visible emission limits. So in the settlement, RJ Torching agreed to pay a civil fine of $150,000, and they're going to install a pollution capture and control system, along with additional air pollution testing and also monitoring. In communities already disproportionately burdened by environmental injustice, from historic industrial legacies to current day emission loads, it's up to us. I mean, we have to remain vigilant to enforce the laws that protect our people and protect public health. And I'm also able, by virtue of this position, to join with my fellow attorneys general from across the country in providing opinions on policy developments and briefs in multi-state litigation all across the country. So over the course of my tenure as AG, my department has weighed in on air and water quality metrics, protections for endangered species. You're welcome, Great Lakes wolf, energy efficiency standards, and of course, the regulation of oil and gas industries. Just for example, in May of this year, I joined 16 states in filing a brief in the city of Oakland versus BP, seeking to hold big oil accountable for misleading the public about the known dangers of fossil fuels. And stay tuned for further developments here in the state of Michigan in regard to those types of matters. But, you know, my department remains vigilant about any and all opportunities we might encounter to lend our resources and our expertise to the fight for preserving our environment. So I just want to say, I'm just so grateful to all of you. I'm grateful for the support that I received from the Michigan Climate Action Network over the years. We all want the same things, right? We want to protect the environment. We want to combat climate change, promote environmental justice, and ensure that we all have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. We just want to work, live, breathe, and relax in a place where our ecosystems and our health are fully protected. And so together, we can protect and conserve the resources of this beautiful state for many generations to come. And I just thank you guys so much for recognizing the work of my department. I'm eternally grateful. And thanks for all the work you guys do.